First of all, I wanted to indicate something to you about the importance of this project. Most of you are aware of what a fantastic growth period we have been in the county, and we're still among the top counties in the entire country as far as growth is concerned. Some of our demographics are interesting. We are presently approaching 800,000 people in population in the county. The average number of households is just under 250,000 households. New residents are moving into the county at the rate of 94 every day. So this growth factor is part of our overall heritage and growth. And that's what prompted this project a few years ago. Collin County has initiated a project to locate and catalog any and all historic sites in the county. The survey is being conducted using the criteria established by the National Registry of Historic Places, and Collin County will be the only county to undertake such a project on a county-wide basis. By making historic information available on the web, residents, newcomers, corporate relocators, and others will have a better appreciation of our history and our growth. Collin County is important. The history of Collin County is important. A community is known by its history, and all of you are history buffs, so you are eminently aware of how much bearing our history has to do with who we are and where we're coming from. In order to accomplish this, the first thing we did is we set up what I choose to call a data communications tree, in which we are seeking sources of where the information is. In order to do this, I started with the Collin County Commissioners and the city councils and the school districts and the libraries, the museums, the historical organizations, coalition of historical groups, chambers of commerce, civic groups, publications, economic development groups, businesses, and community important personnel. We've got the commissioners' districts, and each of them have contributed significantly to helping get the project started. And the same goes for the school districts, where we've gotten all of the school districts involved, and in some cases some of the school kids are helping to do this research. We're looking at state and county-wide historical organizations, city and town historical groups like yourselves, museums, and you know of several that are in the area, and additional sources of information and organizations. The object behind all this is, as we collect this data, it will be included on the county's website. And if you haven't been there recently, I would recommend that you take a look at the county's website. In particular, go to the GIS, the Graphic Information Services Department, and look under their new interactive maps, and you'll see how the county is presenting the information, and it's got aerial maps as well as road maps. And what the county has done in order to help organize all this stuff is they've divided the county into 287 grid locations. And so what we're doing in the commission is we've broken this up into 4 quadrants, and we have a quad leader for each of the 4 sections. Becky Earhart Smith and Diane Miller are in the northeast quadrant. Janice Klein, who's with us today, is in the southwest quadrant. Linda Hess has got the southeast quadrant. Bruce McFadden back here has got the northwest quadrant. And Joy Goff, whom I assume most of you know, she is an eminent cemetery historian, and you're talking about your project, be sure and include her in your information, because she's got a wealth of information. We have set up, let me get past this a minute. and show you, this is what one of the aerial maps might look like. And you can click on this, and the idea is that a location or a historic asset will be indicated on here, and if you click on it, it will give you a description of the property, and then it'll put a link to a historic narrative giving the complete background of that particular area. And as an example, this is northeastern Plano, and this yellow dot represents the Muncie Massacre site, the site of the last Indian raid in North Texas. And if you find that on the map, you can click on it and it'll give you some background on it. Among the items that we had in our handout earlier is a list of suggested categories of the historic assets that we're interested in looking at. Historic buildings, cemeteries, churches, chapels, city government, the Civil War, home front, military front, communities, ghost towns, doctors, early businessmen, early hospitals, early maps, schools, settlers, the social life, the early stage, the mail and the cattle trails, the early wells and water resources, education, fire departments, geological setting of Collin County, gyms, agriculture, homesteads, colonies, the interurban stations and stops, and the history therein, law enforcement, location of historical markers, mercantile establishments, miscellaneous and historically significant buildings, factories, gumbo pits, onion sheds, etc., all of which contributed to the history of the area that we are now appreciating. In order to do this, we have set up, first of all, a cover sheet that each of the volunteers will use to fill out on each individual site. And it's got the basic information here, the location, the date, the historic dates that are involved, and what kind of a classification and category it falls in to go along with the National Registry criteria. We're doing it in the same types of classifications that they are. And then in the narrative, we'd have an article or information on that individual site, which would also include a bibliography and pictures, so that you get a pretty full explanation of what's going on at these different sites. And then for the volunteers who are working with us, we've got a complete set of instructions about exactly line by line of how to do this and how to fill it out. And we'll have a packet of information for each volunteer, and we'll go through some indoctrination sessions to get everybody on board so that everybody knows how this is to work. And knowing how interested all of you are in history, I would like to ask you to sign up and help us put this information together. And I've got a few sheets here that I'd like to pass out and ask you to, if you would, fill in your name, address, email, and so forth. And what we're doing is we're keeping an index of all of this information so that we've got all of the grid information. We have a list, already have established our database to coordinate this. So we've got all of the cemeteries in the county. We've got what we call the Collin County markers. These are not the state markers now. These are markers that the county GIS service has indicated. So it's got all of this information on here, like the Collin County prison, the Collin County farm, et cetera, et cetera. We've got all of this established in our database, and we've got it separated by quadrants again, so that we've got a place to start for everybody. And then we also have a database of all the volunteers that we are including, and we've probably got a little over 100 right now. But we'd like everybody who's interested in the history of the county to help us put more of this together.